What's up, sexy people? It is Dave. It is Duncan back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new release from Faroese Danish sludge band GRAVA. The band's new album, The Great White Nothing, will be released on September 27th via Aesthetic Death on CD, Vinyltroll Records on LP, and Evil Noise on MC. Don't know what's MC.
An MC, isn't that someone that plays?
MC.
I don't know. They're just making up shit now.
Something cassette, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe, actually. No, that's not. I'm still doing cassettes. I'm not doing cassettes, Dave.
No, I've just started vinyl. I can't do cassettes. I can't.
You'll never guess what, Leanne. What is it? I bought a tape deck. Get you to fuck.
So the Faroese Danish trio's debut album Weight of God showcased a violent yet atmospheric type of sludge metal that was simultaneously raw in its execution and disciplined in terms of songwriting. Its follow-up continues in the same vein while adding a touch of nuance and depth to the vicious soundscape. Though not a concept album, the album kicks off with two tracks that revolve around the same event: the tragic Franklin expedition, which in 1845 ventured to the northernmost Arctic to explore the Northwest Passage between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The expedition was a disaster. Both ships, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, were lost, and all 128 crew members perished in the Great White Nothing, to which the title and cover refer.
And also, Dave, if you've ever seen the phenomenal TV series The Terror, that's what that was based on.
Yeah.
Fucking loved that.
Yeah.
We should speak like ye old-timey fucking shipmen for the rest of this review.
Yarr.
I didn't say like fucking
pirates.
Yorkshire pirate. What the fuck is going on?
Throughout the album, GRAVA expand their lyrical universe and the bleak sludge metal is accompanied by tales of heartbreaking execution of a Swedish nobleman in 1707, Breaker, a tragic train accident in the outskirts of Copenhagen in 1897, Mangled, and a soldier's final chaotic moments in one of the countless muddy trenches of World War I, Bayonet. Just like on their debut album, GRAVA do not attempt to tell stories from A to Z, but instead attempt to capture moments of death as seen through the eyes of the dying. The effect is a musical and lyrical drama that appears fragmented and intense, but also surprisingly disciplined in terms of songwriting. In a genre often characterised by long songs, GRAVA never lose grip on their compositions, and although The Great White Nothing is full of interesting musical ideas, the tracks rarely extend far beyond the 3-minute mark. Like its predecessor, the album was produced by Troels Damgaard Home and mastered by Brad Boatwright at Audio Stage.
We love you, Brad.
We do.
He must have had a fucking ball doing this one. Levels to this bitch.
Okay, so album 2 from GRAVA. Never heard of them before. But if there's one thing you can rely on from the Danish, Duncan, it's to provide metal that's heavier than depression. And here we are to talk about the new guy, which is actually Faroese/Danish. So not completely Danish, but
yeah,
feels quite Danish.
There's a touch of the Dane in there.
Yeah. So how did you get on with this second album from GRAVA?
So once again, for clarity's sake, I don't read the PR, but I did know there was a Danish involvement because you basically said to me last week when we finished recording, "Oh, we're just doing one album." Little did we know we were going to be doing two. We'll just do one album, right? And it's I'm putting in here because it could be kind of interesting. It's Danish, and that's literally, you just kind of like went on to talk about things. I was like, oh. Because we reviewed, I would say, a predominance of our reviewing time is fixated on Denmark, our tiny cousins to the, where we're going, that'll be east. And I've yet to hear an album from that particular country that has made me not just like Just like I need to know more. And this is no exception to this. I think GRAVA are fucking awesome, if I'm honest. And there's kind of like a threefold reason behind that. First, I think that the weightiness of this album from the sludgy elements is incredible. Like, just every single riff just feels like a giant falling out of bed. They're just so fucking monstrously lumbering and heavy. It's fucking awesome, right? That's the first thing. Second thing, no idea what's going on with the drums, but I kind of love the tone, right? The bass drum sounds almost like, if I did not know better, the bass drum and the snare drum sound like they've been taken from like a fucking industrial band, right? Like the bass drum just sounds like augmented. It's so fucking punchy. And that snare drum, I could be forgiven for thinking it is, you know, something that like Nine Inch Nails or Health have used before because of how much snap it has on the tone. It's very synthetic and I kind of fucking love it. It works with their sound. Now you probably have more information. So is this, do we know? Is this a real drummer or is this...
It's a real drummer, but one of my notes was there's an industrial vibe on this as well. So yeah,
cool.
yeah we're
Right.
on
So
the same
I'm
path
not
here.
I'm not a million miles off. I could not, like, every listen, my ears just go straight to it. I'm like, that's fucking genius. Absolute genius. And then the last thing that I think that they do incredibly well is the atmosphere here. The atmosphere, whether it's on the lead work on the guitar, which can go blackened at times with ease, and actually can go weirdly like ambient and ethereal with the use of synths. So they'll have bits where you get whole sections that ring out, like particularly when they're closing songs out, where the guitars will start to get a bit staticky, and then the synthy like wave envelops everything and carries it through. We'll get to the vocals. We're coming back to the vocals, but yes, that was the first, like, when I got to the end, I was like, that this is fucking like amazing. Like, I need to go back through it again. It was on repeat listens that I actually started to really dig out a lot more of what the band are actually doing. And it's interesting because you mentioned sludge there quite a bit in the way you were like, because it's in the PR statement. It's like the sludgy tones and all the rest. It's a huge amount of post metal here, like massive amounts, but like Cult of Luna style post metal dotted all the way through this, and those blackened elements, which never really come in anything except the shredding guitar stuff, and it's really well produced, so it sounds good. Like those elements that come in together, when you have that industrial bit in the background, it just makes a sound fucking huge. Like every section where you get like a riff, it just sounds fucking massive, and it's through all of this. So like there's another point that was mentioned in the PR there, which kind of links in with something I was going to say, is generally in the genres that this band are dabbling in, you expect 6 to 7 minute songs.
Yep.
And they don't do that. It's like they kind of got the memo. They're like, that, listen, we need to bring it in, make it fucking work, and hammer it home. That's not to say that there aren't longer songs on here. The Fall, which is a fucking... Like, if they wanted to go long form, The Fall is how you fucking do it. That track has, like, there's a riff in the middle that is just the heaviest... It's like it's a troll walking up a hill with, like a bag of cement, which is already mixed. So it's just fucking pure cement. So fucking heavy, man. So heavy. Also, ends with this fucking huge clean bit. Like progressively just lifts up. Reminded me a little bit of Cult of Luna I mentioned before. They have those sections where they'll just do something a bit light. And it's the one that ends out almost, if you... Don't want to sell Dave on a vinyl here, but if you had a vinyl, it's the track that would close out side one to me, because it kind of brings things in. Then you get the back half of the album. That's not like Erebus is a fucking great opener. White Thrasher is fucking incredible. Decimate ends with the most decimating riff, maybe on the fucking on the album all over. And Breaker's a great song, follows the Pace of Resistance at side one, and then you jump into the back half. Back half ain't fucking around, Dave. Like, even a little bit. Mangled is like a big industrial slobber knocker. Hello there. It really is. It's the one that kind of feels like what would happen if, like, Trent Reznor, I don't know, like, just ate nothing but steroids and then learned how to write sludge riffs. It's fucking huge sounding, and I was kind of like, right, so the back half of this album was just like a continuation of what we've heard before, and that's couldn't be any further from the fucking truth. Bayonet kicks in with pace, it's perfectly placed. It has a lot more snap and a lot more attack to it. Hearing what you were saying about, I mean, the term bayonet makes me think of kind of World War I, World War II anyway. So the fact that that's what they're aiming for totally works with that.
Yeah.
It's maybe the one that's the most conventional song of everything on here. It's the one that kind of doesn't fluff around with too much and gets right to the point, which makes it fucking awesome, especially when you lean in towards the final two tracks. Ceasefire is atmosphere, you know what I mean? And it kind of once again shows that the band have levels, and it's actually, my first time through it, I actually felt it was a bit of an anchor on it. Like, the release, I was kind of like, this is the second last track, you should be building something. Actually, on subsequent listens, to me, it's perfectly placed. It comes out of, if you imagine that being a kind of World War I, World War II-esque sort of thing. Ceasefire is essentially you wading through what's happening to get to Hinterland, which is the final track. It's a great fucking closer. It's all atmosphere. It's like a movie score. It's like closing credit movie score. I love it. It just sounds huge. It takes its time. It builds up this kind of beautifully, weirdly serene opening passage, and then hits you with a fucking couple of big old droney, chunky bastard riffs. Vocally, let's get to this, right? I love his tone. He's kind of got this, it's like a growly snarl, right? It's kind of quasi death metal, but not quite. And it fits like a fucking glove in everything they're doing. It just really, really, really works. He's never in a rush with his vocals as well. There's no bit where he ever really changes it. Like, there's a kind of monotonous pace overall in the album, which is to be expected with its sludge and post metal influences. But vocally, it's just all, its emphasis. Everything is delivered with pronunciation and to punctuate the riff underneath. It finishes fucking super strong, and it's produced so fucking well. It just sounds like massive. And I got to the end of it, and I was like, God damn it! There's another band that I'm going to be talking about from Denmark for the rest of the fucking year. This is fucking great. This mixes my favorite bits of sludge, like that kind of Conan heaviness, with that kind of Cult of Luna post metal, with that like fucking disgusting Danish heavy vocal that they're now pretty much known for. And then you get those elements of industrial, those elements of atmosphere and cleans, and then the audacity to shove a little bit of Blackened stuff over the top just for a little bit of seasoning on that steak. And it's also mercifully short. And this is a 33-minute album. 9 tracks and the occasional let a riff take for a walk, but they never really let anything. It's a surprisingly controlled release. So I thought this was fucking great, and GRAVA are on my radar now.
Nice.
I'm curious with you, right? Because you love the sludge, but you think sludge can be a bit repetitive, which you're not wrong there. You love the post-metal, but Dave, you also think the post-metal can be a bit repetitive, and you're not wrong there either, right? Industrial, you could take or leave, we know that. But it does have Brad Boatwright doing some stuff on the top, and that's a tick. That's a tick right there. That's almost a star. But it's bleak. This is like infinitely bleak. This is prison movie bleak. And I know you like a wee prison movie bleakness. So, Hit me with what you thought. How did you get on with GRAVA?
It is bleak, Duncan, and I'll tell you one thing. I hit play on this on Monday morning, first thing, sitting at my work, and I got about 2 or 3 minutes into it, and I was like,
No,
this is
no,
not a
no,
Monday
Monday
morning
morning. No,
album.
no, when you've got a whole week of work ahead of you. Don't start there, Dave. What are you doing?
I can't do this right now. Definitely not a Monday morning type album. Especially when it's like first day of the week. You've still got that kind of dready doom feeling in you already.
Yeah, you've opened Outlook. There's 17 emails, all of them marked urgent, and you're like that. It was a clean inbox on Friday.
So, put a pin in that. Going to come back to you later. But what I would say is though, when the mood is right, Duncan.
When was that? Was that Tuesday?
When you're looking for something to just tip you over the edge, Duncan, the new GRAVA album is that. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised about this one because it definitely has the Danish character to it. Like it's very thick, very dense, and very miserable.
Yeah. Can we just call it LLNN from now on?
It totally does. There's an LLNN vibe on this for sure.
Is there anyone in this band? Like I joked about this before we hit record here, that we're just used to. Oh, this is your new favorite Danish band. Oh, by the way, 3 members are from 3 bands you've already reviewed. Are GRAVA outside that bubble?
They are weirdly. They are.
Right. Something in the fucking water. What's going on in Denmark, Dave?
I don't know. I mean, this is just a trio, 3 guys.
It's fucking more ridiculous.
And I think 2 of them were in a band called Whelm, I think was the name of the band, but I've never heard of them. But that's pretty much it. There's not really any other connective tissue to any other Danish bands, which I thought was really weird because usually there's always something.
Yeah.
But not with us. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I for me, like LLNN was like the first thing that hit me when this. I was like, okay, there's definitely that vibe going on here. They're a band I absolutely love.
Yeah.
These guys have that kind of like pummeling weight and to their sound, where it just kind of like it just tramples all over you, and doesn't give you any kind of time or room to breathe at all. They also, for me, had a little bit of a Psyche project meets like almost a little bit of kind of Willhaven bleakness. Infused
there's some of those bendy riffs are very Willhaven.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a couple of riffs where they kind of start to go a touch kind of further up the neck, and they go a little bit. I want to use the word jangly, but it's not a greatest term, but not in like a hipster indie type jangly way. This is a bit more bitter feeling. It's almost icy. Like it's like it's like kind of touching on that kind of blackness at times.
Which goes with the theme of the release, even the artwork. That idea of being stuck in the Arctic. Yeah,
for sure. Totally got that.
Here.
White Thresher, Breaker, they have that kind of that blackened streak to them that just is kind of seared into their sound, into that kind of sludgy, kind of monolithic kind of groove, which I really liked on this. I think they do it in a way where it doesn't become overused either, but just enough that it gives you a different tone on some tracks. Vocally, it somehow matches the levels of intensity the music makes, which is kind of mind-blowing. Niels Asger Svensson, I think that's maybe how you pronounce his name, but probably not, is the vocalist.
Angriest man in Denmark. That's what I'm calling him now.
He is the vocalist and bassist of the band. His tone is just sickening. Like he's like, as you said, he's got these kind of like demonic kind of low kind of growls that he does, but then he can also reach for like a higher register as well. Where I was getting a little touch of that kind of Willhaven-y kind of rasp as well, but like vocally, like absolutely killer job on that front. Like I loved the kind of tone that he has on this album. I also really like the length here as well. Like I think GRAVA managed to pack a lot in, even though the tracks don't really exceed that 3-minute mark. For the most part, there's a couple of tracks go beyond that. Obviously, The Fall, for example, kind of sits right in the middle of the album, and that hears them push something a little more balanced in terms of the kind of like like dark and light almost. Starts off huge, very riff heavy, but then they add this big, like almost like uplifting solo in the middle of the track. There's a really cool switch in tone. And eventually they fade that out into these like really kind of like warm, kind of spacious synths, which was almost had this like, I see it was kind of like almost like post-apocalyptic or something. But to me, yeah, it felt like the transition from part one of the album going into part two, the old flip of the vinyl, if you will. And I think part two is where things get a little bit more interesting. Weirdly, like the tone didn't feel quite as dense on the second half of the album. There's like a touch more breathing room. The chords aren't all within that kind of low, kind of first few frets kind of range. And as you said, that's when I was like, oh, there's like a bit of industrial going on here on this part of the album. Mangled had that kind of mechanical kind of feel to it. Then they also kind of nudge up the tempo at times as well, with Bayonet having more of a kind of more mid-pace kind of speed as opposed to that kind of slow, kind of crushing sludge tempo that the previous tracks had. Ceasefire is very interesting because it goes a little bit more off-piste, getting more experimental, much kind of removing most of the kind of heavy guitars. It is more of a kind of like an interlude type track, but it fits the title of the track as well. It definitely feels much less kind of destructive and more kind of restrained. Hinterlands is like a kind of bit of everything, really. It's got the atmosphere, it's got this bleak synth, it's got the gloomy streak, it's got these colossal riffs that pretty much repeat for the whole song, but vocally is where it had a kind of slightly different feel. There was like it's hard to describe, but like almost kind of like chant-like or like a sacred kind of feeling about the vocal style on that last track. The delivery is very like enunciated, so you can make out everything that's being said, and kind of gets like hypnotic after a while. But I liked it. I really thought it worked as a closing track to the album. Yeah, this is an album that kind of started in a way where I thought, right, I kind of know where this is going and what I'm going to get for this whole album. And then when they hit the halfway mark, Grava kind of pulled out a few more ideas, and I was like, all right, okay, but they didn't also like just disregard what they'd done in the first half either. They made it still feel connected, but they pushed the boundaries just that little bit more, which I absolutely loved. I think sludge bands, for more often than not, they tend to stick with a sound, and that's what you get. It gets a little bit predictable.
Oh dear.
But these guys have kept a lot of the core elements they had on their first album, but then they've also kind of leveled up in their songwriting and developed the sound to be less predictable in the genre. Production as well is like perfectly suited to this, like such an enormous sound on this album. But I really like that it had levels to it. It isn't just like a wall of sound type album. It does at moments take a step back and give you that little bit more kind of nuance in the sound. I think these guys are definitely ones to keep an eye on. Kind of mental this is only album 2 as well. I feel like they sound much further ahead than that.
For like the quasi concept they brought in of mixing a couple of different like stories into it, feels like, it almost feels like a bit of a flex.
Yeah.
We could do this if we want, and we're gonna kind of do this, and we don't care if it doesn't all. For like, that's another thing for an album that really is telling a lot of disjointed stories. There is a through line. I mean, that through line is misery, but there's a through line throughout the release that actually holds it together. So,
scores. What would you give this album from Grava?
Yes, a 4.5. I think this is absolutely fucking great. I love this. This is, I've kind of morishly spoiled myself quite a bit on this. I am up to about 6 or 7 listens. Not on a Monday morning. Never on a Monday morning.
That was a bad idea. Bad idea.
But yeah, it's like that part of the world, man. Honestly, it just keeps, like, every time you think you've kind of got the sound like locked down, this is kind of what this sounds like, there's another variation to it that comes out that just kind of makes you go, it's an incredible scene over there. So 4.5 for me. What about yourself?
It's nuts. Weirdly, I was chatting with one of the reviewers today, and he was saying like He loves doing reviews for Metal Epidemic because like he's found like 2 new bands recently that like he's absolutely in love with that he'd never heard before, and it's like just a great way of hearing new music. And I was like, dude, it's happening to me every week. Like
Every week now,
there's
yeah,
another
every
band.
week.
I'm like, holy shit, this is incredible. Like,
Where have they come from?
Yeah.
Why is this a debut? Like, there's you know what I mean? It's just like constantly
It's nuts,
just being
man.
surprised.
So GRAVA, another one to add to the list. I'm going to agree. It's 4.5 from me as well. Thoroughly enjoyed this, and I can't wait to hear what they do next. And Denmark, not that far away from Scotland, is all I'm saying. So if you want to, you know, set up a little tour for...
Faroes are quite far away though. So. No, they're not really that far away. They're just far away from Denmark. Scotland technically is in between the two, so you're fine. From a commute, a wee stop off in Scotland.
Scotland, yeah, get a little, even just like a wee one-off date in Scotland. That would
One-off show. Yeah. Nowhere else. Don't worry. Hey, listen. Don't worry about making money.
You'll buy a t-shirt. You'll be fine.
Buy a t-shirt.
Oh, good.
We will buy a t-shirt, by the way.
So yeah, GRAVA, new album, The Great White Nothing, is out on September 27th. Links below to the band, the pre-order, Bandcamp, all that stuff. Check it out, have a listen, see what you think. Let us know in the comments below. That is a review. Thank you for checking it out. Much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon. But until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Lashing up